Ladies and gentlemen, once again, welcome to the 10th Anniversary World Food Prize Award Ceremony. We extend a special welcome to our guests from Iowa and from around the globe. Thank you all for joining us for this very important occasion. Ladies and gentlemen, the 1996 World Food Prize Award Ceremony starts now. You've been enjoying his music as you entered the Civic Center. Now, please welcome our musical host, Mr. Cecil Van Houten.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Good afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the World Food Prize 10th Anniversary Award Celebration. We're excited to have one of America's best-loved and well-known singers with us this afternoon. Would you please join me in welcoming Mr. John Denver.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor and a privilege for me to be with you this afternoon on this very, very special occasion. It's an honor to be included among those who are working so very hard to end hunger on our planet. And it's a privilege for me to lend my voice to those whom we honor today and also to those whom we serve. I would paraphrase a small poem written by a friend of mine, David White, who says, "This is not the age of information. This is not the age of information. This is the time of loaves and fishes. People are hungry, and one good word is bread for 1,000. The lives that we honor here are words upon words that have given bread to those hungry." There's a full moon over India, and Gandhi lives again. And who's to say you have to lose for someone else to win? In the eyes of all the people, the look is much the same. For the first is just the last one. When you play a deadly game, it's about time we realize it. We're all in this together. It's about time we find out. It's all of us or none. It's about time we recognize it. These changes in the weather. It's about time. It's about changes. It's about time. There's a light in the Vatican window for all the world to see. And a voice cries in the wilderness. Sometimes he speaks for me. I suppose I love him most of all when he kneels to kiss the land. With his lips upon our mother's breast, he makes his strongest stand. It's about time we start to see it. The earth is our only home. It's about time we start to face it. We can't make it here on our own. It's about time we start to listen to the voices in the wind. It's about time, it's about changes, it's about time. There's a man who is my brother, I just don't know his name. But I know his home and family, because I know we feel the same. And it hurts me when he's hungry and when his children cry. I too am a father, that little one is mine. It's about time we begin it, to turn the world around. It's about time we start to make it the dream we've always known. It's about time we start to live it, the family of man. It's about time, it's about changes, it's about time. It's about peace, it's about plenty, and it's about time. It's about you and me together, and it's about time.
Thank you, John. We'll be enjoying more of his music and his insightful comments throughout the program this afternoon. Just what is the World Food Prize? It's an international prize based right here in Des Moines, Iowa. It recognizes achievement toward the goal of food security the world over. Let's take a look.
The foundation of civilization is not stone, but bread. Our history is not of nations rising and falling, but of soil sown and harvested. Our passage into the 21st century is not fueled by a barrel of oil, but by a bin of grain. Food is the stuff of life. Its production, the mark of civilization's dawn. Its lack, civilization's demise. In 1986, Dr. Norman E. Borlaug, winner of the 1970 Nobel Peace Prize, understood there would never be true peace in a world of want, and that the greatest prize is a life devoted to people in need. A way must be found, he said, to thank those whose work nourishes us with hope for our times, a way to inspire others to achieve the same. And so was born the World Food Prize. Dr. Borlaug, eminent international scientist, father of the Green Revolution in wheat, set out in 1986 to honor, as he had been honored, able individuals from many disciplines who quietly, heroically confront the issue of food security in the world.
There's no prize available in the Nobel Foundation for food or agriculture. And so they put me through the window for peace, the only window through which I could pass. And now we have such a prize, so that on its own merit, food across all of the links in the chain can be recognized.
Awarded every year since its beginning in 1986, the World Food Prize gives richly deserved recognition to pioneers who improve the quality, quantity, and availability of food upon our small planet. And just as importantly, the award seeks to inspire and challenge gifted, creative, dedicated others to follow these pioneers into the field and to plow their own new ground. Timely for the urgency of its cause in 1986, the World Food Prize is today even more compelling. The award symbolizes significant victories in the continuing global struggle to meet humanity's nutrition needs. In our world of conflicting resource realities, famine and hunger persist. Acute poverty prevents many from sharing the world's bounty. Croplands shrink, yet the population grows. Nearly 90 million a year, 250,000 every day. And who is it left without? Almost always hunger's grip is upon the unborn, small children, mothers, their own life waning, unable to give sustenance to their young. But around the world, dedicated people valiantly and effectively address the alleviation of poverty, hunger, and malnutrition. It is the miracle of the human mind, driven by the compassion of the human heart, that scientists of the world can coax from an ear of corn, a tassel of wheat, a panicle of rice, greater and greater volumes of food. This is one kind of miracle celebrated by the World Food Prize. From its headquarters in Des Moines, Iowa, in the heartland of American agriculture, the World Food Prize recognizes achievement in all disciplines that affect the great food chain of life on Earth. Mixing science and art to triple the yield of grain, providing the poor the financial opportunity to improve their lives, helping control a parasite that threatens to wipe out vast sources of food, livestock, and wildlife, organizing a village into a productive dairy cooperative. World Food Prize laureates are singled out for honors because their inspiring work not only engages an immediate problem, sometimes even a crisis, but also alerts us to global food-related issues. Former President Jimmy Carter.
The World Food Prize, I think, does do all three of these things: recognize achievement, inspire others to do greater work, and acquaint the public with the importance of providing high-quality food to people who are now in need of adequate nutrition.
The pledge of business leader and philanthropist John Ruan, sponsor of the prize and chairman of the World Food Prize Foundation, is to seek out from nominations solicited from more than 4,000 institutions and organizations globally those whose effort makes their work worthy of the $200,000 prize, and to rank the World Food Prize, in keeping with Dr. Borlaug's dream, among the world's preeminent honors, comparable to the Nobel Prize.
I pledge my own energies and resources to these real-life heroes, whose work not only touches the soil, but also touches the hearts of all mankind.
The World Food Prize reminds us every year of remarkable deeds happening in quiet corners of the globe. Because of the prize laureates, we have convincing proof even more can be done in the years ahead as challenges to become food secure continue. We have the best of us to thank for this harvest of hope. And by their fruits, the world shall know them.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome your MC this afternoon, a member of the World Food Prize Advisory Council, Mr. Robert Havener.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, family members and friends of the World Food Prize, it is my pleasure to welcome you here to help us celebrate the 10th anniversary of the establishment of the World Food Prize and the accomplishments of our laureates. As you will see and hear, the war on hunger is not yet over. But each of our laureates has made a significant contribution toward winning a major battle and consequently providing a better way of life to millions of people. It is to recognize these accomplishments and to remember their victories that we dedicate this 10th anniversary. Thank you very much for joining us in this observance. As you have seen from the video, the World Food Prize story began more than 20 years ago when one of Iowa's native sons, Dr. Norman E. Borlaug, decided that there should be a prize to recognize individual achievement in food and agriculture. It was because of his vision that the World Food Prize was first conceived, and then his perseverance ultimately brought into being when the General Foods agreed to found and for a time to fund the World Food Prize. When the initial sponsors decided to discontinue their financial support, Dr. Borlaug turned again to his home state and to a fellow Iowan to continue his dream. It was in 1990 that he met with John Ruan, and the two joined together to continue the vision and the mission of the prize. All too often, we neglect to recognize our visionaries of our time. Therefore, we want to devote a moment in our program to recognize the contributions of our colleague, Dr. Norman Borlaug. It is only appropriate that this recognition come from his partner in the prize, the man who himself has been recognized as a true visionary, Mr. John Ruan. Please, John.
I am proud, and I know you are, that together we've been able to bring the World Food Prize to Iowa and share it with the world. I know it's dear to your heart, Norm, and it gives me a great personal pleasure to now present you with a prize. The original oil painting of the prize, which was commissioned for our 10th anniversary with the inscription that reads, "To Norman E. Borlaug for his vision and guidance, the World Food Prize 10th anniversary on October the 18th, 1996.
Dr. Borlaug, would you please join us? Say a few words to folks.
Bob, ladies and gentlemen, this is indeed a surprise to me. So I'm without words. Other than this, I would like to remind us all, those of us who take food for granted, those of us who have been very privileged, the millions that have been left behind where hunger is a constant companion. I hope that this prize, which John Ruan, through the foundation he has established, will continue to stimulate young people. If we are to continue to provide the food that's needed, the technology on which it's based, and to help the farmers and livestock men who produce it, then we have to have some of the best young talent that's available. And I hope that the recipients, the past laureates and those to come, will always stimulate young people, some of them, some of the best, to follow these careers. Unless this happens, we will not be able to keep pace with the growing food demands. And I want to thank you all for this great honor and this great prize. Thank you very much.
May we take just a moment to recognize another distinguished person with us who for the past nearly 60 years has been Dr. Borlaug's greatest supporter and greatest helpmate. Margaret Borlaug, please stand up. Thank you, Margaret.
This is the first song that I wrote specifically about the issue of hunger, and I wrote it sometime before I had the privilege of serving with Dr. Borlaug on President Carter's Commission on World and Domestic Hunger. And yet I believe, out of what I had heard of him and the good work that he had done as the father of the Green Revolution, that somehow I learned this song from him. It expresses what I believe is in the birth cry of every newborn baby, just one of the things that binds us together all over the world. And it says, I want to live. There are children raised in sorrow on a scorched and barren plain. There are children raised beneath a golden sun. There are children of the water and children of the sand, and they cry out through the universe, their voices raised as one. I want to live, I want to grow, I want to see and I want to know. I want to share what I can give. I want to be, I want to live. Have you gazed out on the ocean, seen the breaching of a whale? Have you watched the dolphins frolic in the foam? Have you heard the song the humpback hears 500 miles away, telling tales of ancient history, of passages and home? I want to live, I want to grow, I want to see and I want to know. I want to share what I can give. I want to be, I want to live. For the worker and the warrior, the lover and the liar, for the native and the wanderer in kind, for the maker and the user, the mother and her son. I am looking for my family, and all of you are mine. We are standing all together, face to face, arm in arm. We are standing on the threshold of a dream. No more hunger, no more killing, no more wasting life away. It is simply an idea, and I know its time has come. I want to live, I want to grow, I want to see and I want to know. I want to share what I can give. I want to be, I want to live, and I want to grow. I want to see and I want to know. I want to share what I can give. I want to be, I want to live, and I want to grow. I want to see, I want to know. I want to share what I can give. I want to be, I want to live. I want to live. I want to live.
I was just asked for a couple of words, and I had the privilege to do a couple of interviews today around being here and being part of this ceremony. And one of the things that I was asked about was what it was like to be with Dr. Borlaug when you're out fishing together. Are you aware, does he come across as a Nobel Peace Prize winner, for instance? And I said, no, not at all. He is an incredible gentleman, quiet, soft-spoken, and so down to earth that you can't, it doesn't really communicate. You don't get that here is a man who, like all of us, as the gift that we are to the world, here is a gift from a small town in Iowa who has not only touched the lives of millions of people, but has saved the lives of hundreds of millions of people. And not just their lives, but their hearts and their minds, what makes them human beings, and what gives each one of them the opportunity to be perhaps the same kind of unique and incredible gift that he is to our world. Thank you, Dr. Borlaug.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Each of you with us today, in some special way, is a very important person, certainly worthy of being recognized. Unfortunately, time will not permit that. It is perhaps worth noting that we have representatives from the International Agriculture Research Centers, from the Consultative Group for International Agriculture Research, from the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, from the World Bank, from the U.S. government, from a number of universities, and a number of dignitaries from Iowa. Perhaps most importantly, we have the teachers and the students from throughout the state of Iowa who are gathered to participate in the World Food Prize Youth Institute this week with us. I wish to recognize and congratulate each of you for being very important members of our team. There is, however, a very small group of individuals that I would particularly like to recognize. They are the members of the World Food Prize Council of Advisors. Some members cannot be with us today, but may I ask those who are here to stand, and as I read the names, and remain standing. Please hold your applause until each of them have stood, but I think you would like to see and know who they are. First and foremost, of course, is our chairman, John Ruan. John, hold your applause now, just a moment. Dr. Norman Borlaug. Unfortunately not able to be with us, the Honorable Jimmy Carter, Mr. Al Clausey, Dr. Gordon Eaton, an Iowa product, Michael Gardner, who unfortunately can't join us, Dean Kleckner, President of the American Farm Bureau Federation. Did Dean make it? He was having difficulties. Hi. All right, up there in the corner. Dr. Pekka Linko from Finland. He came all the way from Finland with his lovely wife to be with us. Mr. Robert McNamara, who really needs no introduction. Mr. General Obasanjo, the former head of state from Nigeria, who unfortunately cannot be with us because he's incarcerated in his own country at this time. Jonathan Taylor, who is from the UK, and my very special friend, Dr. Lucia Vaccaro from Venezuela. Please give them a hand. Thank you. Thank you very much. We have another distinguished group of people with us that I can't introduce. They are members of the selection committee. They serve anonymously because they have the task of choosing these laureates and future laureates. And therefore, in order to protect their anonymity, we must ask them to serve anonymously, and that is unfortunate because they are indeed a distinguished group of folks. Both groups, by the way, serve without compensation. Finally, thanks to the highly motivated and dedicated staff of the World Food Prize Foundation and other supporting organizations, without their good work, this would not have been possible. As I indicated earlier today, we are celebrating the 1996 laureates, and we are also celebrating 10 years of awarding the prize to recognize individuals who truly have made a difference in the continuing war against hunger, malnutrition in the world. Join me now as we briefly review the stories of our previous laureates.
It is the individual working in service to others in the quest for global food security who is honored by the World Food Prize. But it is all the world that receives the true reward. Since its founding in 1986, with public honors and the presentation of a $200,000 award, the World Food Prize annually says thank you on behalf of a grateful world to individuals who offer themselves up for the common good. With years of service dedicated to improving the quality, quantity, and availability of food, the World Food Prize laureates inspire us to follow and challenge us to lead. Introducing the World Food Prize laureates. The first World Food Prize was awarded in 1987. M.S. Swaminathan, by leading the effort to bring new high-yielding varieties of wheat and rice to Indian farmers, is hailed as the architect of the Green Revolution in India. Under his leadership, the successful introduction of these new grains nearly doubled total yield in just 4 growing seasons, convincing Indian government officials and farmers that modern farm practices were indeed highly effective. Robert Chandler was the founding director in 1960 of the highly regarded International Rice Research Institute, known by its acronym IRRI. Under Dr. Chandler's guidance, IRRI scientists from their headquarters in the Philippines began developing and distributing new high-yielding varieties of rice. By the 1970s, these varieties were dramatically increasing rice production in Asia, inspiring the creation of an international network of agricultural research centers. Verghese Kurian helped turn the milk sheds of India into productive enterprises that benefited rural producers and urban consumers alike. His Operation Flood turned the smallest villages into cooperatives that produce, collect, process, and market milk throughout India. As a result, more than 6 million dairy producers in 50,000 cooperatives currently are marketing milk in 500 Indian cities and towns. John Niederhauser discovered a durable genetic resistance to the potato late blight disease, a discovery which boosted the food supply and improved nutrition for people of many nations. In Mexico, Dr. Niederhauser helped evolve a strong integrated national potato improvement program that resulted in a 6-fold increase in Mexican potato production and inspired similar potato production breakthroughs in other countries. Nevin Scrimshaw, an international nutritionist, was the founding director of the Institute of Nutrition of Central America and Panama. Here he originated the principles for a low-cost protein-rich food product to relieve the threat of a deadly protein deficiency disease, a disease that attacks very young children. Dr. Scrimshaw has brought worldwide recognition to the vital role of nutritionists in improving food quality. Edward Nippling and Raymond Bushland, a team of entomologists, pioneered the sterile insect technique, an environmentally friendly method of controlling or eradicating insect pests that harm the world's food supply. As a result of their work, biological pest control has had a strong impact on preserving a safe, stable food supply for the world. Huck Kong, former Minister of Agriculture of the People's Republic of China, led an agricultural reform movement in his country that caused food output to grow more than 8% annually in the early 1980s. For the first time in modern history, as a result of Huck Kong's leadership, China became self-sufficient in basic food, a major accomplishment in a nation with 22% of the world's population, but only 7% of the world's arable land. Muhammad Yunus, founder of the Grameen Bank in Bangladesh, designed innovative small loan programs for the poor that gave millions of people access to more food and better nutrition. For the first time in their lives, poor families not only have better access to food, but also have enough money remaining from their meager incomes for other necessities, such as clothing and shelter. Today, other parts of the developing world seek economic empowerment for the poor by recreating Dr. Yunus's programs. Hans Herren led an ambitious and successful biological control project to combat the cassava mealybug, a dreaded pest that threatened Africa's entire cassava crop. Dr. Herren's achievement stabilized the production of cassava, a diet staple for 200 million people and a vital reserve in time of famine. Dr. Herren's approach soon became the model for ecologically and economically sound pest management, leading to similar approaches in other areas.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to present the World Food Prize laureates. Dr. Robert Chandler, 1988. Dr. Verghese Kurian, 1989. Dr. John S. Niederhauser, 1990. Dr. Nevin Scrimshaw, 1991. Dr. Ed F. Nippling, 1992. Dr. Muhammad Yunus, 1994. And Dr. Hans Herren, 1995. Gentlemen, you may be seated. Thank you. Please sit down. You may be seated. Please rest. Now it is time for us to award the 10th World Food Prize. I'd like to call on John Ruwan to please join us on the stage at this time. Just a moment and we'll be all ready. Yes, why don't you stand up, all of you, please. The pursuit of food security for every human being on this planet is what brings us together in this theater today. The 10th Anniversary World Food Prize laureates exemplify the power of this challenge. Let us take a look at their life's work, please.
1 in 3 people of the world depends on rice for half of his or her daily intake of food. Because of the efforts of the 1996 World Food Prize laureates, the world's supplies of this vital grain are better able to meet that demand. Dr. Henry Beechel and Dr. Gurdjieff Kush share credit for their revolutionary efforts in greatly improving the yield potential of rice. In their work at IRRI, the International Rice Research Institute, in the Philippines and throughout Asia, Doctors Beechel and Kush demonstrate the brilliant and creative intelligence and the unselfish drive to better the lives of all humanity that is celebrated by the World Food Prize. One day in late 1963, Dr. Henry Beechel, retired rice breeder for the U.S. Department of Agriculture, walked through the experimental fields at the Rice Research Center and returned to the lab with an historic discovery. IR8 is a short, thick-stemmed, sturdy rice plant that responds more effectively to the application of fertilizer, matures early, and yields much more than traditional varieties. Here is a typical traditional rice variety. Its top-heavy panicles cripple weak stems, thus submerging the fruit of the crop beneath the water. The sturdy stems of IR8 support higher-yielding panicles, producing far more grain. Soon, IR8 set yield records throughout Asia, doubling previous production. With good management, farmers could produce 4 or 5 tons of rice per hectare of land, compared to 1 or 2 tons using traditional varieties. Benefiting from Dr. Beechel's work, Dr. Gurdjieff Kush, a colleague of Dr. Beechel at IRRI, developed his own new variety of miracle rice. Using Dr. Beechel's IR8 as a genetic base and cross-breeding it with 13 parent varieties, Dr. Kush developed IR36, a variety that has proved to be highly resistant to a number of insect pests and diseases. IR36 matures rapidly and produces a slender grain, preferred in many Asian countries. It has become one of the most widely planted food crop varieties the world has ever known. About 11 million hectares planted worldwide. The improved varieties of rice developed by Dr. Beechel and Dr. Kush and their colleagues in Asia are now planted in nearly 70% of the world's rice-growing land and are responsible for more than doubling the worldwide rice production, feeding 700 million more people than otherwise would have been possible. For Asian farmers, the new varieties of rice have brought in $1 billion in income. With available croplands diminishing, Dr. Kush believes it is imperative that even better yielding rice be developed. The challenge? To meet the increasing demands from farmers in developing nations for these new varieties as expediently as possible. With the groundwork of IRRI and other Asian scientists in place, chances of meeting this demand are dramatically improved. Celebrating his 90th birthday this year, Dr. Beechel continues to consult in the rice industry and remains very active. Dr. Kush currently continues to serve as principal plant breeder and head of the Division of Plant Breeding, Genetics, and Biochemistry at IRRI, where he has worked for 29 years. As a result of Drs. Beechel and Kush's work, millions of people are now better fed, enjoy better health, and increased life expectancy. Dr. Gurdjieff Kush.
The most rewarding part of this work is that you have the satisfaction of helping so many people by producing more food, and I hope that this will be continued, and this is my sort of the mission of my life, to continue to work towards the improvement of rice, to be able to feed more and more people.
In the years ahead, the World Food Prize will continue to honor the men and women whose life's work is dedicated to improving the quality, quantity, and availability of food for our ever-growing global population. Much has already been done to strengthen the world's fundamental food supply and to fight hunger that's obvious as well as hidden hunger caused by poor nutrition. And much remains to be accomplished. It is the individual who makes a difference whom we honor today. It is the children of the world tomorrow who reap the reward.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming your 1996 laureates, Dr. Hank Beechel, Henry Beechel, and Dr. Gurdjieff Kush. John Ruan, will you please join me?
On behalf of the Ruan family and the World Food Prize Foundation, I am proud to present the 1996 World Food Prize to our co-recipients, Dr. Beechel and Dr. Kush.
Please take that with you as you go. Good. Thank you very much. We get to take them back. Thank you very much. Hank Beechel, would you have a few comments for us, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Bob. Mr. Ruan, Dr. Norm Borlaug, ladies and gentlemen. First, I'd like to thank my wife, Mary, for being present, along with quite a few of my relatives who, being from Nebraska. Why, there are quite a few of them in this part, and then other people who have come in to the meeting. It is a great honor to be selected to receive the 1996 World Food Prize and to have the pleasure to share it with my respected colleague, Gurdjieff Kush. I also wish to express my sincere gratitude to Mr. John Ruan and Dr. Norman Borlaug, founders of the World Food Prize. My career spans 9 decades if you include my on-farm high school vocational agricultural training. It is almost as long as the history of modern plant breeding. In 1993, having received degrees from the University of Nebraska and Kansas State University, I accepted a U.S. Department of Agriculture appointment as junior agronomist in charge of rice breeding improvement in Texas. was located at the Texas A&M Experiment Station near Beaumont, Texas. I witnessed during the development of the U.S. rice industry near the point of bankruptcy in 1931, from a labor-intensive, low-input operation to a low labor input, highly mechanized and intensive production operation by 1963. The rice varieties developed and the agricultural production practices by rice research personnel that were developed were essential to the success of this development. The rice research conducted in the U.S. from 1931 to 1963 set the stage for the Asian rice research started in 1962 at the International Rice Research Institute. This does not imply that research from Japan and other Asian countries was not essential. It was of equal importance. In October 1963, I retired from U.S. Department of Agriculture Research Station, and of course it was located in Texas, so Texas was just involved as much as a USDA in my work. I accepted a position at the Rockefeller Foundation appointment as a rice breeder attached to the International Rice Research Institute. For the next 19 years, 9 years in the Philippines, followed by 10 in Indonesia. I had the good fortune to be a member of a staff, Erie staff rice specialist put together by Dr. Bob Chandler. That triggered the Green Revolution in Asia. The Erie program covered all disciplines and each represented by outstanding young scientists directed by a highly dedicated and capable administrator, Bob Chandler. Bob Chandler was by our side continuously in the field or in the lab, wherever we were. Thank you, Bob, for your help and for your friendship. I also, later, when I returned to Texas, I had the good fortune to be working under another outstanding director, the president of RiceTech, Robin Andrews, who is made of the same cloth. IR8, the first semi-dwarf variety we developed, proved to be the prototype from which rice varieties planted throughout Asia and elsewhere were derived. This advance, which brought about the Green Revolution in rice, is well documented. The revolution is still in progress with continued success. Rice yields throughout tropical Asia have more than doubled in many areas. While highly successful, the Green Revolution nonetheless created new problems, none of which have been solved after 30 years. In 1972, Bob Chandler and I retired from the Rockefeller Foundation. We were 65 and we were too old, according to regulations. I accepted a position as a member of the Erie support team assigned to Indonesia, where I worked primarily with Indonesian scientists at the Central Research Institute for Agriculture in Bogor, Indonesia. During this period, Indonesia adopted high-yielding, disease and insect-resistant, early maturing semi-dwarf varieties that resulted in as much as 100% increases in yield in many areas. It was at this time when we had a very serious brown plant hopper and tungro epidemic, and fortunately there was available varieties that which most IR36 that could would be planted to take the place of and avoid a further catastrophe. In 1962, I accepted a position as consultant with RiceTech, Inc., a privately owned company that develops specialty rice varieties. They produce, mill, package, and market specialty varieties under brand names. RiceTech, Inc. is also developing hybrid rice varieties for the U.S. and for South and Central America. As hybrid rice technology advances, it will spread across rice-producing countries. China today plants over 50% of their rice to hybrid varieties, and each year the area planted hybrids increases. India has a hybrid rice program that is near adoption by farmers. The next step will be tropical Asia. Rice Tech Inc. recently harvested a 35-acre field of hybrid rice that yielded close to, well, Robin told me to correct that a little bit. He said it was over 9,000, not just under 10. So, and the field in which we practiced along the coast was, after harvest, was flooded and fertilized, and to produce what we call a ratoon or stubble crop from the stubbles of the first crop. And that presently it looks like we'll probably make possibly 3,000 to 4,000 pounds additional grains. With results like this from field, not experimental plots, we're quite sure that this is going to be successful. In general, rice varieties and their management will be better adapted to the social and economic conditions farmers must face. I predict that hybrid rice varieties will be planted in many countries in the near future and will be out-yielding standard varieties by as much as 15 to 20%. With the advent of molecular genetics, all rice breeding programs will be strengthened. During the next 15 to 20 years, the full impact of molecular genetics will begin to be felt. Just where it will end is beyond our fondest dreams. Hybrid rice varieties should reduce production costs, give higher grain yields, and more long-term productive stability through resistance to insects and diseases. The grain characters of new varieties will more nearly meet the demands of the millers, processors, and eating preferences of the consumers. Variety improvement teams in both the public and private sectors will supply the rice varieties best suited for specific needs of farmers, food processors, and consumers. We will continue to learn from experience and better understand the patterns from the past as we discuss on the development of rice varieties for the future. In closing, I am grateful to have had the opportunity to be part of the rice research programs of Texas A&M, USDA, Erie, the Rockefeller Foundation, and Rice Tech. It is only by working with younger scientists that I have remained at the forefront of rice breeding. Although I cannot thank each and every individual, I will never forget the support of my friends and colleagues, leaders in rice research and administration, farmers, millers, processors throughout the world. It has been a most pleasurable and an honor to have worked with them. I hope that I may still have and may in some way have contributed to the betterment of humankind. My career over the past 66 years has been a most gratifying experience, and I hope it will continue for a long time, not a few years, but long.
Why don't you go over and join the other laureates? And may we all be so productive. And may we all be so productive when we've passed our 90th birthdays. Let me turn now to Dr. Gurdev Kush for a few words, please. Gurdev.
Dr. Borlaug, Mr. Rowan, members of the Council of Advisors of World Food Prize Foundation, I am greatly honored by my selection to receive the immensely prestigious World Food Prize. Thank you for giving me this honor. Through your decision, you have also honored present and past staff members of Erie and numerous rice scientists in the national programs of developing countries with whom I had the good fortune of working during the last 29 years. This prize should be considered as a tribute to the wisdom of visionary leaders of Rockefeller Foundation and the Ford Foundation, who first conceived the idea of an international center of agricultural research. The International Rice Research Institute, known by its acronym as IRI, was the first center established in 1960 to apply science to agriculture in order to increase the production of rice, which is the staple food of 1 out of every 3 persons on this earth. In 1950s and 1960s, populations in the Asian countries were increasing at a faster rate than the food production. Because of these trends, several authorities, such as Paddock Brothers, predicted large-scale famines in 1970s. However, advances in wheat and rice breeding produced varieties with a yield potential of 2 to 3 times higher than that of the traditional varieties, which ushered in the Green Revolution. These varieties responded better to modern agronomic practices. Wide-scale adoption of such varieties and proper agronomic practices have led to major increases in food production, which meant food shortages forecast by Paddocks and others did not occur. Rice varieties grown in the tropics before the Green Revolution were low yielding, and most of the farmers were getting about 1 to 2 tons of rice per hectare. The first high-yielding varieties developed under the leadership of Dr. Beechel, my predecessor, doubled the yield potential of rice. It's responsive to the nitrogenous fertilizers and is lodging resistant, and it can yield up to 4 to 5 tons per hectare instead of 1 to 2 tons, which were possible before the introduction of IR 8. When I arrived at Erie in 1967, Dr. Chandler, the then director of Erie, gave me the assignment to make further improvements in IR 8. IR 8, although was breaking all the yield records, there were some detractors who complained about the grain quality, and Erie scientists were concerned about its susceptibility to diseases and insects. So Dr. Chandler asked me to work on those problems. Fortunately, the Erie scientists had collected a large number of germplasm and had screened these germplasm, these varieties, to identify the sources of resistance, or what we call the donors, for making the further improvements. And working with my colleagues, we set the goal of making these further improvements to make the varieties more acceptable. The breakthroughs came with the development of varieties like IR 26, IR 36, and subsequent varieties which have multiple resistance to diseases and insects. IR 36, for example, is resistant to a dozen diseases and insects, and it can be grown without any pesticides. Asian farmers save $500 million a year in the pesticide costs because of the multiple resistance of these varieties. And these varieties were also improved in the grain quality, and their growth duration was reduced from 160 to 170 days with the conventional varieties to 130 days for IR 8 and 110 days for IR 36. Because of the short growth duration, farmers started to grow 2 crops where only 1 was grown, and this led to intensification of rice production. Subsequent varieties were improved in further in taste, in tolerance to various problem soils and adverse temperatures. There are 34 varieties under the designation of IR 34, under the designation of IR, which are grown all over the world. We also send numerous breeding lines, hundreds of experimental lines, to the national program through our international testing programs. These varieties are tested, some are released as varieties, some are used as parents in the crossing programs. To date, more than 300 breeding lines developed at Erie have been released as varieties all over the world, and others have been used in the crossing programs. It's estimated that more than 50% of the rice area in the world is planted to rice varieties developed at Erie or their progenies. The wide-scale adoption of these varieties has resulted in the doubling of rice production in the 25-year period from 1966 to 1990. In 1966, rice production was 257 million tons, and that increase occurred during 10,000 years of the history of rice cultivation. From the time it was domesticated to 1966, rice production was 257 million tons. In the next 25-year period, it added another 257 million tons, and the production reached 520 million tons. Just to give you a couple of examples, Indonesia had a total rice production of 13 million tons in 1966. It reached 47 million tons in 1994. In Vietnam, rice production increased from 9.4 million tons to 23 million tons. In India, from 46 million tons to 122 million tons, and in Philippines, from 4 million to 10.5 million tons in 1994. However, we cannot rest on our laurels. The challenges ahead are even greater. The population in Asia is increasing at 2% annually. Rice consumption is going up because of the rising living standards. Agricultural economists estimate that we will have to produce 70% more rice by the year 2025 to feed 5 billion rice consumers. In the past, increased rice production resulted from opening up more lands for cultivation and increased productivity. However, there are no more lands to be opened up for cultivation. Some of the best lands are being taken out of rice cultivation because of pressures of urbanization, roads, and housing. So we will have to produce this additional rice from less land, with less water, with less labor, and less pesticides. That's really a tremendous challenge for all of us. We are working on several techniques to raise the yield potential of rice, as well as the colleagues at IRI are developing the technology, the management technology for increasing the production. We are trying to develop new plant types, change the architecture of the rice plant again, so that it can produce 20 to 25% more yield. We are working on hybrid rice, which Dr. Beechel also mentioned, which should increase the rice production by another 15 to 20%. We are also using the tools of biotechnology to raise the yield potential. So we hope that during the next 10 to 15 years, we will have rice varieties and hybrids which will give us 30 to 40% higher yield than the existing varieties. That's the only way to feed the additional rice consumers. One of the most rewarding aspects of work at IRI is the opportunity of working with numerous scientists from the various rice breeding programs, as well as to work with the trainees and students who come to work with us. We have had the good fortune of working with more than 300 rice breeders from all over the world, which have gone back and now leading the rice breeding programs in their countries. And they are the best collaborators for our work. Sometimes I look back and count my blessings, which are many. IRI has been led by exceptionally dedicated and visionary directors general who have provided unstinted support to the scientific programs. I am grateful to numerous colleagues at IRI as well as the national programs whose cooperation has been invaluable. Advances in rice breeding could not have been possible with the loyal and dedicated support of the Filipino staff. I have also benefited from the interaction with students, scholars from many countries, and the excellent support of the Philippine government. It takes resources to mount a major effort for developing the technologies, the one we have been talking about. Rockefeller Foundation and Ford Foundation provided the support and established the International Rice Research Institute and provided the support for the first 10 years. Starting In the early 1970s, our visionary leaders like Secretary McNamara took the initiative to organize an international consortium called CGIAR, which is a consortium of donor agencies which has been supporting the work of IRRI as well as the 15 other centers. Special mention must be made of the support and confidence in the IRRI's programs by the development agencies of United States, Japan, Canada, Australia, Germany, United Kingdom, Denmark, Sweden, Switzerland, Netherlands, Belgium, and many other programs. There are many remaining challenges. The World Food Prize, which I am receiving today, will help attract the attention of government officials and policymakers in the donor community. We need to invest today in the future of our children and grandchildren. It's our foremost responsibility to develop the technologies which will help produce enough food for more and more people in a sustainable way while protecting our environments. We should commend Nobel laureate Dr. Norman Borlaug, who is my role model for conceiving the idea of World Food Prize, and the generosity of Mr. Rowan for sponsoring it. Both of these individuals deserve our gratitude and those of generations to come. Mr. Borlaug, Dr. Borlaug, Mr. Chairman, Council of Advisors, ladies and gentlemen, I accept the prize with great humility. I wish to express my deep sense of gratitude to numerous colleagues at IRRI and in the rice-growing countries for their collaboration. Finally, I would like to thank my parents who taught me the dignity of labor, my relatives and friends for their support, my wife Harvant, who has been a best friend and advisor, and who sacrificed her own career for the success of mine. My children, Ranjeev, Manjeev, Sonia, and Kiran, have all been a source of strength and inspiration for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that expression of your support. Historically, the prize has linked the ambassadors from countries in which our laureates' work has had an impact. This year is no exception. The continent of Africa has, in many ways, benefited from the work of each of our laureates, and rightly so, because there is much need there. Last year, when Hans Herren received the World Food Prize for his work in Africa, the ambassador from Kenya had planned to join us, but his trip had to be canceled. This year, however, he has made good on that commitment, and he is with us today. I invite him now to share a few comments with you. Please welcome His Excellency, Mr. Ben Kipkorir, Ambassador from Kenya, please.
I rehearsed coming up the steps this afternoon, but as you can see, I didn't do it very well. Mr. Ruan, Dr. Borlaug, World Food Prize laureates, ladies and gentlemen, it is a distinct honor for me to be here this afternoon to witness the award of the Food Prize for 1996. It was a regret for me that I was unable to come here last year when Dr. Hans Herren was honored. I have a very special reason for being happy to be here because Dr. Herren, who was honored last year is the Director General of the Institute for the Study of Insects in Kenya called ISIPE, of which I happen to be a member of the Governing Council. In honoring Dr. Herons last year, we in Africa and in Kenya were honored. And for that reason, I am very happy to be here today. But I'm also happy personally to witness the greatness of this prize and to join all of us in congratulating the recipients of this year's prize. I know at first hand what hunger means, because when I grew up, we did not have much to eat. I was telling Mrs. Bollock this afternoon that when I grew up, people in my village did not know what a farm is. I think those of you who've done research in Africa know that in most households, crop production is on lots. Today, there are farms in Kenya, but the irony of technological advance is that in a world such as the US, farms no longer exist as they used to be known. They are now industrial enterprises. There is still much work to be done in many parts of the world, particularly in the continent of Africa. I know, you know, we all know that the problems of hunger and malnutrition can be solved if men apply themselves. But as it was told us today at lunchtime, it requires many people. To paraphrase the First Lady's famous phrase, it takes a village. In this case of policymakers, agronomists, scientists, to solve the world's food problems. The problems of food insecurity underlie a lot of the suffering in many parts of the world, particularly in Africa. I join those who applaud the Ruan family for their leadership in endowing the food prize. I join all of us today in congratulating the recipients of the World Food Prize, and I want to assure you that we in the continent of Africa, and indeed in the rest of the developing world, appreciate very much your good deeds. I thank you for your attention.
Mr. Ambassador, thank you very much for those observations. They added profoundly to our meeting. What's the old advertisement about when E.F. Hutton speaks, you should listen? John Ruan just asked if it would be possible to add a slight addition to the program. When John Ruan speaks, I listen. John, you would like to make some final comments, I believe. Please.
I spoke about the Ruan family making the food prize possible. Now I'd like to introduce the members of my family who are here. My son John III, I need, let's do this quick so that they can move on, you know. Janice, would you come up here? John IV, Jonathan, Philip, Adam, Thomas. Thank you very much. I like them too, most of the time.
Now you got your
30 seconds.
Thank you very much, John. That was very nice. I'm going to interject one more thing, and our stage manager's getting crazy by now. But I would like to pay a special get well soon to a dear lady who has been with us since 1990, a great supporter of the prize, Mrs. Betty Ruwan, John's wife. It truly has been a special experience to have this reunion. Gentlemen, you may join our folks in the audience at this point. And you may as well, please. We thank you for joining us in celebrating this special 10th anniversary celebration and the good works of these marvelous individuals. It's been equally special to have the appearance with us of the person who kicked off our first such World Food Prize ceremony and a real friend of the prize, Mr. John Denver, who will now close our ceremony.
Thank you very much. To close our celebration today, I have a simple song, and I have, as you see, some friends to sing with me. The song, as I said, is very simple. It's 3 verses, but I think it says a great deal. At the end of the 3 verses, we repeat the first verse, and at that time I would ask all of you to stand and join hands and sing with us. This is All This Joy. Cecil, please.
All this joy, all this sorrow, all this promise, all this pain, such is life. Such is being, such is spirit, such is love. City of joy, city of sorrow, city of promise, city of pain, such is life, such is being, such is spirit, such is love. It's a world of joy, a world of sorrow, a world of promise, a world of pain. But such is life, such is being, such is spirit, such is love. Everybody. such is being, such is spirit, such is love, such is spirit, such is love.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for sharing this special occasion with us.